And he is still ill now as a result of this torture to which they subjected him without at any time having been ready to prosecute him, because the very few rules which the wretched prosecutors of foreign countries have to follow in applying the European arrest warrant do at least include a rule that you may not arrest somebody on grounds that you're about to prosecute them unless you're about to prosecute them. He can now prove they weren't about to prosecute, they weren't ready, because he got a piece of paper 2 months ago, a year after William Dartmouth, my noble friend, the Earl of Dartmouth, a UKIP MEP, got him out of that prison when nobody else would help him, saying that they're still trying to find evidence against him. They haven't actually yet got a case against him.
But Lord Monckton...
They flagrantly abused the procedure, of such as it is, of the arrest warrant. This was simply an arbitrary rendition to a foreign country without any hearing, without any questions being asked as to whether this guy was guilty of anything or whether they were even ready to say that he was guilty of anything, which we now know they weren't. We are no longer a free country. We are now a police state in the formal sense, in that you no longer have the right that Magna Carta itself gave us, a right under which I was born, but under which I no longer live.
Unbelievable.
That I should get a hearing in front of a judge before anybody locks me up or fines me or extradites me. That right has gone.
Unbelievable, and I want to expand on that because that is the most fundamental right. And this has happened in every culture where you have absolute rule by a despot, a king, an oligarchy, a dictator, is they can say, seize that...
Bit, Alex. Here's the nasty bit. Jason McGoldrick, originally, he wasn't a UKIP member, he was a member of the Conservative Party. He wrote to his Conservative member of the European Parliament, and he said, look, I have been arbitrarily arrested, I haven't been told why, I've been locked up for 4 months, I'm very sick, I'm being poisoned with this ghastly pork fat, and I am desperate for my family to know where I am. I want to get this sorted out. Will you please help? And this was the reply he got from a so-called Conservative. And now you will know, Alex, why I no longer am a member of the Conservative Party, because this is the kind of people they now have as their representatives. This man wrote back to him and said, if a foreign government says that you're guilty of a serious crime, that's enough for me. There is no need for a trial anymore. If they say you're guilty, and serve your sentence like a man. Of course, he hadn't been charged with anything. He was just locked up at the whim of some minor communist official in Hungary.
This is the essence of tyranny. This is the essence of tyranny, and here's my point. Then he gets in touch with the member of the UK Independence Party from England, part of the EU Parliament, to show how tyrannical it is. When the authority figure showed up, they just released him. In a true republic, he would have been charged, and a member of Parliament couldn't just do a on-the-spot pardon. So that prima facie shows the tyranny that they just grabbed him, were holding him, not charging him, and the Conservative representative ignored it. The UK Independence Party person went, and the communist thugs, part of the EU, groveled to his authority and released him, showing that it was completely arbitrary.
And the way they released him was very characteristic of the communists. They just opened the door of the jail one day and booted him out. There was no prior warning they were going to do this. Of course, the MEP, William Dartmouth, was on the phone every day to them, telling them they'd got to do this. They just boosted him out the door and slammed it and left him on the street. No money, no telephone, no way of getting in touch with anybody, and he had to go and beg until he could get somebody to let him have a phone so he could ring home and get some money sent so he could be flown back. I mean, it is every aspect of this story is profoundly disturbing. And it had an electric effect on the meeting last night, because I asked for a second vote on how many people thought Britain was a police state, and there was only one out of the entire meeting who was willing to say that it wasn't a police state in the light of this episode. All the others had changed their minds. And once people get to hear that this is what happens when you don't have a democratic system of government, then perhaps UKIP will win its point, we will come out of the European Union, which is not just anti-democratic, it's irreformably anti-democratic, and we will once again be the masters of our own destiny, and never again will a British citizen be arbitrarily have his door kicked in at 3 in the morning and whisked off and put on a plane and locked up in some dank, miserable communist dungeon somewhere, just on the say-so of a communist official, and without the slightest right to be heard or even to know what it was. To this day, he doesn't know what it was that he was accused of. And I can tell you what I'm going to do about it.
Well, sir, it's time for you to leave, but do 5 more minutes. We'll finish up on this and then get into some of their new attacks on our energy systems, if you can. I know you've got your press secretary there. If you've got to go, we understand, but Lord Christopher Monckton is our guest. But we're going to hear what Lord Monckton is going to do about it on the other side. If he can stay with us, if he's got to go, he'll tell me during the break. Okay, thank you very much. But ladies and gentlemen, it's the same thing here now, with Obama saying U.S. citizens can be secretly killed, secretly extradited, taken overseas. The Congress won't pass the carbon taxes he implements by fiat and seizes the power plants. This is tyrannus. This is tyranny. We'll be right back. Okay, my friends, Lord Monckton is our guest. He was pointing out what he's going to do about it. Imagine foreign, incredibly corrupt governments that get away with whatever they want. The EU backs it. Order the British police, and they use this federal commissariat, to come grab you in the middle of the night. Only the worst regimes in history did that. The terror comes at night. Normally, the police pick you up at work, pick you up at when you're walking out to get in your car in the morning. They just walk up, soft power, here's the warrant, police car. Only the secret police in black uniforms kick down doors, the NKVD. Notice how our whole culture worldwide is shifting to this. This is done scientifically. Lord Monckton, what are you, the former head of the UK Independence Party, and of course really their omnibudsman, now running for office for the Parliament there in Scotland, what are you doing to strike a blow? Because you said 40% didn't think Britain was a police state. 60 did, a large group of citizens. And then after the story, 100% understood when you broke it down. What is your battle plan?
The battle plan, stage 1, is that once this campaign is over, I will be writing an amicus curiae brief to the judge in the case, telling him, A, that Jason McGoldrick was tortured while he was in prison, by being starved and fed this ghastly rancid pork fat 3 times a day, and nothing else, no vegetables, no potatoes, nothing, just pork fat 3 times a day, and B, that the prosecutor effectively lied to the British court by presenting the application for a warrant at a time when there is a presumption that he was ready to try Mr. McGoldrick, but in fact he clearly wasn't, as we can prove from documents that have come to light since. So I'm going to tell the judge those 2 things. I'm going to say, you are not allowed to inquire at the moment when the warrant is demanded into any of its circumstances, but once you are told that the warrant was improperly demanded, and we can prove that with documents from Hungary, and once you are told that this regime imprisoned this man in conditions which were inhumane and constituting in UK law torture, contrary to Section 177 of the Criminal Justice Act 1983, that is something of which the judge cannot but take judicial notice. He will have to call the Hungarian authorities in front of him in court, where I will be putting down a motion that the Hungarian foreign minister should be subjected to an arrest warrant for having presided over a regime which condones torture and brought over to Britain to stand trial in our criminal court at the Old Bailey for torture. And that carries life imprisonment. That'll teach them.
And by the way, you and your investigations have sent a lot of people to prison and derailed a lot of criminal actions. You're not playing games, Lord Monckton, so more power to you, because official oppression, the power of a criminal judiciary outside of any law, will reduce us down to classical absolute tyranny, and we all must stand together so that free people do not become slaves of this bureaucracy. We only have 2 minutes left. Give us a breakdown of the globalist ongoing programs to seize control of the global energy system.
Well, they're still going on and on and on and on about about this global warming nonsense, but it's failing. We've now had no, and I mean no, global warming for 10 long years. There was supposed to be 0.5 Fahrenheit of global warming over the last 10 years, according to the UN's climate panel. It hasn't happened. It isn't happening, and it's now very, very clear. I've just been studying the record for the last 60 years, changes in greenhouse gases. We've been getting the latest data, putting it in the computer. It's absolutely clear that this is not happening at anything like the rate they predicted. But the other thing that we've now done, we're working with international scientists and economists, is we've worked out just how little difference it makes if you, for instance, have a Waxman-Markey climate bill, and that would cut down 5/6 of the U.S. carbon economy over the next 40 years. That figure was in the bill, 83%, 5/6 would have been shut down. And that, over 40 years, would have reduced global temperature by 0.09 Celsius. It would have made hardly any difference, and it would have cost $7.2 trillion. That's how absurd all of this is, economically speaking, and we're about to publish these results worldwide. It's going to take a few more weeks to get them peer-reviewed and into the literature, but we're very close to it now. And when everybody sees just how little your trillions buy when you're trying to stop the temperature rising, then they're just going to laugh this whole nonsense out of court. And when they do, then this world government network will suffer the biggest setback it's ever suffered. This will be the end of the left worldwide if we play this lie. It'll be the end of dictatorship, because they will all remember it was the left, it was the Marxist, it was
absolutely,
the
Lord Monckton.
suspect.
You've been very gracious. Thank you for joining us. All right, there goes Lord Christopher Monckton. Sorry to have to cut him off. We'll be right back with Steve Watson. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.